to the Sign1News live virtual chats. I'm Martha Anger, and you are in for a treat today. Today's show is about a fun and fascinating theater production called Sensory Box TYA that puts you, the participant, right in the middle of the experience and activates your imagination and senses. It is such a cool concept, and you will hear from the artist-director behind this innovative theater production. But before we get into our hot topic discussion, here's a quick look at a couple of stories that are trending in the news today. The NFL has made a major announcement. Several games are being rescheduled because of COVID-19 issues around the league. An increasing number of players are being quarantined as part of COVID-19 protocols. In fact, tonight's game between the Cleveland Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders has been rescheduled to Monday, December 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time because 23 Browns players are on the NFL's COVID reserve list, including the team's starting quarterback and head coach. And it's not just the NFL. Dozens of NCAA men's basketball games have been rescheduled or canceled. Several NHL games have been postponed until after December 26th. And Broadway canceled several shows this week, all due to concerns about the rise in COVID cases. Police in Virginia believe they have arrested a serial killer they call the shopping cart killer. Police say 35-year-old Anthony Robinson allegedly met his female victims on dating sites and took them to motels, killed them, and used shopping carts to transport their bodies to hiding places. Robinson was arrested for the murders of 3 women, but investigators fear there may be several more victims. Investigators are asking anyone with information to call the number below. Tips can be submitted anonymously if you don't want to leave your name. On Friday, former Minneapolis police officer Kim Potter took the stand in her own defense on the last day of her trial. She is charged with manslaughter for fatally shooting 20-year-old Dante Wright in April. Potter has pled not guilty, claiming she mistakenly pulled her gun instead of her taser. Jury instructions and closing arguments are scheduled to begin Monday morning. The Biden administration is celebrating a big victory. An appeals court ruled that the government can enforce its vaccine or testing rule for companies with more than 100 employees. And a third Biden mandate requiring vaccines for certain healthcare workers is being reviewed by the Supreme Court. Speaking of the Supreme Court, right after the appeals court decision on the vaccine mandate, people who disagree with the mandate said that they would turn to the Supreme Court to put it on hold. Now, check out this viral video of the week. A skydiver became the first person to skydive into and out of an active volcano. Sebastian Alvarez's plan involved gaining an amazing amount of vertical speed on the way into the volcano and then opening his wingsuit to transfer the speed horizontally and back up and out. Volcanic activity and hearth weather allowed only Alvarez a short window to pull off the death-defying skydive swoop. But he did it. Wow. All right, let me introduce you to our guests to learn more about an adventurous live stream tactile theater experience called TheSensory Box TYA. Please welcome Ghost River Theater Artistic Director, Eric Rose. and a face our loyal Sign1News fans are familiar with. Sign1News anchor, Gayatri Persed. Hi, welcome everyone. Okay, my first question is for Eric. So Julie, the interpreter, is going to voice for me. So because we've got hearing and deaf people today, and Vera, who is, you can see below me, she's going to be voicing and interpreting for Gayatri and Eric. Okay. So my first question is for Eric. How did you come up with the concept of a sensory box production?
It was I've been working in theater for 20 years, and for the last 10 years I've been creating a series of performances all based on our senses. And just for an example, I made a show called Taste with the River Cafe, which is one of the like top 10 restaurants in Canada. I took over an old bar in downtown Calgary and created a scent bar. I worked with the Veda Academy Salon downtown and created a show called Touch. And so I've kind of been extending my work into these experiences that help to remind people of the deep imaginative resource that exists inside of them. So as you said in your introduction, half the play is really about the participant, like who is actually engaging with the work. You have to bring yourself, your imaginative resource to the interaction. And when COVID hit, of course, I lost a ton of work. Like I had a big tour, a national tour lined up. I had a big production kind of canceled that I was scheduled to direct. And so I started to think about like what could I do that would be COVID proof, so to speak. And as I was walking and thinking, I remember I had talked to my brother-in-law who was living alone in Toronto, who actually works in news as well. He's a videographer. And he had basically said that, he hadn't touched another individual in the last 3 months. And I remember thinking, wow, like that's hard. I have 2 children and I'm constantly interacting with them. And so I thought about that isolation and that loneliness. And I thought, how could we start to bridge the gap between the online world, like this 2-dimensional world of the screen, and the viscerality of live performance, which is interactive? And I've always wanted to create something that was like very touch orientated. And I thought about the idea of like, what if instead of having people come to the theater, which we, may or may not be able to do depending on what COVID restrictions are present, what would happen if we streamed the performer into your home and then mailed you a box with all of the objects, the blindfold, everything that you need to do the performance? And so I invited a few other artists to help with that. My co-writer, Christopher Duthie, a wonderful actor and creator in town named Mike Tan, and then the designer, Emily Promise Allison. And it went really well. We premiered that in September. It sold out. We sent boxes to Australia, Russia, the Netherlands, like all over the world, which was amazing. And so at this point, we had started a conversation with Young People's Theatre in Toronto, which is the largest theatre for young audiences company in Canada. And they commissioned us to create a box for kids, to focus on kids. And as part of that, we came up with the idea of really wanting to make it available to everybody. And so the accessibility piece and ensuring that everybody could be a part of the production became like a really major priority for us. And that's how Gayatri got involved with the production. We started to work with Gayatri over the last 3 weeks. And it was absolutely amazing. Gayatri is like one of the best performers I've worked with ever. She's absolute dynamite.
I'm sure.
And brought an incredible amount of heart and skill. Gayatri is a mother and is a person who has a deep love for children. It was really, really easy to see how yeah, just how beautiful her work was,
There
how
she
she was
is.
able to engage. Yeah, there she is. Look at there. Look, amazing. And she's so funny too. Oh, there's me. Uh-oh, there's me. There's me.
Oh, yeah, she is pretty funny.
Yeah, and so we were doing this in the studio, and so we have actually two different versions. One is one that has been now I think done over 20 or 30 times in classrooms around the GTA, so the Greater Toronto area, and then we chose to so that it could be even more accessible to record the ASL version, which was absolutely unique. It was very separate from the performance for hearing people, because we really wanted to make sure that this was of the ASL world, that this was of the culture, so that in many yes, that's right. Gaytree
Right,
is an
boom, there it
amazingly
is.
talented
Uh-huh.
actor. Absolutely, 100%. She deserves all the praise that we can muster. But so we were very fortunate to be able to provide
Right.
the
Thank
show
you.
on demand on the YPT website, and so that anybody actually in the world can access it, and hopefully they would get in contact with YPT and
Mhm.
have a box sent. It could be a class of people, it could be like 20 or 30 boxes, but there's a way for people to access it in relationship to their time, especially over the
Mm.
holidays. What's so fun about it is that it's wrapped as a gift, and so it's like you're receiving a gift in the mail, which is perfect for this time of the year.
It's really
And
cool.
then you get to stream. It's like you're having Gaytree over. Yeah, there's the boxes right there.
Oh,
It's like,
wow, those are a lot of boxes.
yeah, I love the YPT, the
I
blue
mean,
white
they definitely look
logo.
perfect for the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah,
it's a joy. I mean, it's so fun to
yeah,
like get
very
things in the
cool.
mail, isn't it? Like, it's to receive a letter or a package in the mail feels like very special. And so that, even that idea of starting the experience, yeah,
Absolutely. Yes,
exactly,
of
yeah.
course. Yeah.
Who doesn't want to get a gift? Who doesn't want to get a gift in the mail, right? And especially then you get to invite Gaytree into your home. I mean, and oh look at that beautiful daughter of Gaytree's. We are really
Hi.
interested, yeah, in having as many children as possible participate in the show. It's a
Yeah,
lot of interactive play, and I think at this moment in our current existence with the pandemic, we have to remind ourselves of play, of the joy of interaction, and even of touch.
absolutely.
Touch has been really in some ways vilified in our society right now, because it feels like something that is dangerous. And so we wanted to
Mhm.
re-examine that idea, and to
Yeah,
ensure that,
well, COVID and,
yeah,
everyone's scared. Uh-huh.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's very cool that you made it more, all ages, like family friendly. It could be, you could enjoy it, whether it's sensory or visual, or, you can feel more involved in the creative process. And it's there in that box. That's really neat. And, your story really made me think, in the future of, technology, maybe you could add, a VR thing, and send those out. And that'd be
Well,
amazing.
That'd be
we're going
cool.
to have to work on this new version
You know,
together.
yeah, keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. Audience, we have any questions that you want to ask for Eric before I move on to the next question? Audience. Okay. Let me see. Okay, some of these are repetitive, so we don't have to go into it. So, because you already explained how you started with the idea. Now, so that concept, how it works, you kind of explained a little bit of that. Getting signing up, as far as your goal with the audience, that concept actually does work. So, but how does it work? You know?
Well, maybe this is actually a good question for Gaytree to answer, because in some ways, as a performer, she's
Mm,
a person that has to make it work with the audience in some way or another. So I think Gaytree probably has a very unique insight into that part of the performance.
Gay tree. Would you take that question? Okay, so I asked a question to Eric, but he wants to involve you because you are the performer. So as far as the concept, how does it actually work with the audience?
Wow. Okay. So I met Eric during our first rehearsal, and he explained to me this concept, and I thought, wow, that's a really unique challenge for me. And I thought, how can I approach that? And especially from the perspective of deaf kids, because I'm an individual who is deaf. So I have that in common with them. So how would that box work for them? Because they can't close their eyes. Their eyes need to be open during a tactile experience in order for them to participate. And so we had that discussion, and the most challenging thing was the ASL translation, because there was a script that was in English, but in order to conceptualize it in ASL, it had to be more visual. And so working on making that successful in AXL was, I felt that I got a lot of new skills, and it was a challenge for me, and it was just a wonderful thing.
Right.
My past I could bring to the table, and I also learned a lot as well. And just the experience interacting with kids was a huge benefit too. Like, just getting to make this for them. Of course, I was so nervous. And I wanted to make sure that I had it memorized, and I did a good job. And I had 2 interpreters, one on either side of the camera, one for voicing, and the other interpreter following my signs and making sure that the prompter was on the right cues, and ensuring that I got the facial expression and that engagement from the children, so that they could be involved in this kind of fantasy world.
Yes.
And doing that through the way that I was signing and how I was moving my face, because body language is essential to sign language to show that drama and that theater aspect of it. And you want to make kids laugh too.
Of course.
So getting silly and big with my
signs.
For the kids. Because I have 3 kids of my own, and they've taught me a lot. One of the best things is that my kids got to see me during the rehearsal on we had my phone, and they could see me, and that motivated me to just go big and just do it so well, because my kids could see it. So they saw everything during that. Yeah, during the recording of it. And so that was great for me. She's curious, just like her mom. She loves the camera. And people ask me about deaf schools, and EC Drury is one that was involved, and I'm an alumni of that school. It's the deaf school out in Milton, Ontario. And I remember being a child at the school and seeing deaf performers, and I thought, I want to be one of them. I want to be a performer. I want to be like those people.
And now here you are.
Yeah, and now I'm there, and I am interacting with deaf kids. And so I did break down a little bit. Because look, she's trying to get my attention here. Mom.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. That's the goal. I mean, to be involved, with Eric, designing this concept, and, having your vision, and, getting that all to come to life, and how everything integrates into each other, deaf kids and everything in there. So have that object be, and having that envision and seeing that work and be successful, and understanding the challenges of COVID and how it changed everything, how it changed, movies, TV shows, that whole experience. But, being able to still be creative and have those different things to solve, that's really integral.
Yeah. And I would just like to add I'm so thankful to Eric for opening this up to us, because there isn't a lot on TV that is made specifically for deaf kids, where specifically for them and engaging for them, where they can see sign and they can just feel inspired by that. And so for me, being able to be a part of this is so inspiring, that they get an equivalent thing that the same as hearing kids get. And it's just, I've learned so much from this project that I know that I'm going to bring to future things that I'm in. I wish that there was a, it's on a screen. Of course, it's 2D. In person would be different. And we know that within the deaf community, there is a preference for being it in person. And they're asking questions and, spending time together. And the deaf standard time is because we don't get opportunities to do that as often. So I just think it's just really cool that there's so many different ages and experiences that are involved. And I'm just so thankful. I really suggest that I won't tell you anything about it, but I just really suggest that you get your sensory box and view this.
Oh, awesome. So now kind of a fun little question. So what have been some of your lighthearted or fun moments that happened during rehearsals? So, things that have happened or anything that happened during rehearsal that sticks in your mind.
Eric, do you want to go first?
Eric?
Well, I think a lot.
I see a lot. I see a lot that's going through your mind right now.
Well, yeah, I know. Some maybe not so good for TV either, but especially with kids. But I think some of the fun and the funny is around like what some of the like the way that Gaytree performs with the ASL is so delightful. But her kind of unique ability to bring humor and just her like Gaytree's face alone is so captivating, and you just look at her.
Wow.
Like she's so committed. She's so like I just laughed, and I feel so honored that Gaytree brought such a committed energy. There was such a dedication and heartfelt kind of feeling that was always present from Gaytree from the moment we started rehearsing. And I think that importance and the idea of like that real big goal of how do we make this of ASL culture, opposed to feeling like it was something that we were going to like paste onto the other show. And I think that from that goal, that real clear intention, I think that the performance came out of that. And it's funny because I didn't tell you this, Gaytree, but I have a good friend who's a TV producer, and I was telling her about you and about like the show, and immediately she was like, "Oh my gosh, Gaytree should host her own kids TV show." And I was like, "Yes, we should do that."
Gaytree.
Yeah. It's because the talent that Gaytree brings to it, and that is with that connection, even with a screen, is exceptional, right? How do you move past that two-dimensionality? Well, part of that is that kind of engagement, right? Yeah. How do we engage people with the face, with the beautiful signing that Gaytree did? And we also were very, very fortunate that we had a deaf consultant, an ASL consultant that worked with us and that was a coach on the project as well. And maybe Gaytree, you know Sage a little bit longer than me. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about Sage's involvement as well.
Yeah, so Sage signed like this on the chin. She owns a theater company called Deaf Spectrum, and what they do is they provide feedback on ASL translation. And like I can't see myself signing. I'm performing while I'm doing that, and so they monitor and provide feedback. In certain concepts I might struggle with to make sure that the access is important, and that for deaf kids, they can engage with it, as well as if a hearing child were to watch it, they would understand it on the same contextual level. Because sometimes when you sign something, it might be voiced in a different way. So they would really help me with gauging what my intention was when signing a certain concept, and then help me to build what I was signing from that. It was a lot of fun and helped me grow as a character. Like I'm not, this Gaytree in the show. I am a performer. I am performer Gaytree, and that's a different personality.
Yes.
So for the sensory box, I'm, sillier. I'm And when I take that character off, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I scold them, and I, have to get stuff done on a daily basis. So they're 2
Of
different
course, exactly.
aspects, and I have to make sure that I'm changing into that. I don't want my mother part to come out while I'm the performer, and I don't want the performer to come out when I'm a mom. I've got to make sure that I'm adjusting depending on which
Yeah.
space that I'm in, and that was a challenge. So I'm really thankful to Eric for helping me, not just as the director, but I consider him as kind of like a mentor in acting. He really helped me to improve as an actor, to open my mind. Yeah. And I really suggest that any actors out there really need to come at a project with an open mind and accept
you have to be able to accept criticism, because criticism makes you better.
Exactly. It's going to make you a skilled performer, and I'm just so thankful to Eric for that, because I've developed a confidence that I didn't have before.
Yeah. And Eric, did you wanted to add, I know that you have a comment. So I know, the children, they're fascinated by facial expressions, and deaf culture is involved with that as well. But it's natural. It's, we live in a 3D environment. So, hands, face, we're all 3D. So as far as like, how do you integrate that part, with the pie, if you already have that facial expressions, that readiness. So like with BTS, with VITS, how does that all work? With when you were fascinated by it, congratulations, that really does work. It means that I'm fascinated by it, so kids have to be fascinated by it too, of course. Gaytree, yes.
Yes, and within the deaf community, we tend to have really exaggerated facial expressions as part of our language. But in terms of performing, we have to be very careful with our expression.
Yes. Yeah.
There's kind of a maximum that we can go to ensure that we're fitting within the scenario of being in a performance, because I naturally am very expressive when I sign. And so I kind of had to tone that down and calm that down a little bit and find a middle ground for that, which was challenging for me, but it was important to the role. And okay, let me just think of something funny, going back to the question that you had asked earlier.
Okay, come on, you're ready.
It's like, having like balls.
The balls.
The balls, signing them like this, and everybody was laughing so hard. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, like you.
Yeah.
Like those words. Yeah.
Exactly. And I didn't realize that I was doing it, and so I thought, why?
It just looked
why is everybody laughing so hard? I'm just, I'm signing. I'm just doing what I should be doing here. And oh, my bad. And I'm like, there was another thing that happened. I was like, I am deaf. I'm trying to, everyone's laughing, and what's that smell? And that's another funny thing that happened with the crowd. They're just really funny memories that I have and I cherish from our time making this.
I have a lot of stories myself, because when you're in front of the camera and when you're behind the camera, there's so many stories that you can share. But of course, we don't have time for all of them today. But it is important to laugh and feel that connection with each other. Great. Okay, so audience, do you have any questions before I move on? Anyone? Okay. Oh, let's see. Is it a subscription, or is it just a one-time order? So I think the ticket itself. So is the box just a one-time thing? Eric or Gaytree, would you like to take those? What?
Yeah, it's so you purchase the box and the ticket at once, and then you're sent an on-demand link to Gaytree's performance. And so this link that is now up in the bottom of your screen, if you click on that link or go to again youngpeoplestheater.org, shows hyphen tickets / sensory box TYA, you can find all the information there. And yeah, the tricky thing is that you have to wait until the box arrives before you can view the performance, because the box has all of the objects that you need in order to participate. So you just have to think about the timing of that. So wherever you are in the world, just note that it might take a little bit of time through the mail to get the box to you, but then you can absolutely do the performance. If you have multiple children, I would suggest making sure that you do order a box per child, just so that they can have their individual experience, as that's the way it's designed.
Right. Yes. Makes sense. Okay. Well, I hope that answers your audience question. Gatry, did you have anything to add?
And I just want to add to what Eric had said. So there's a hearing performer and the deaf performance. And so, Eric, am I correct that there's two separate links there? So you'll see another amazing performer, and I forget their name.
Richard Lee. Richard Lee.
Oh, there's another hearing performer.
Oh my goodness, yes. Okay. I can't believe I forgot that. So Richard is an amazing actor and funny, so funny. So that is the hearing performance, the spoken performance, and then I focus on the deaf performance. But if a hearing person wants to watch the deaf performance, absolutely, you're totally welcome to do that. And there is voice interpretation on top of the signing, and so that's something nice that's included as well.
So that's accessibility for all. That's really cool. Okay. All right, next question. So let's talk about the deaf-friendly performances. How exactly does that work? I mean, you kind of explained a little bit of it, but do you mind expounding on that? Or do you need me to sign the question again? Okay. So we already talked about a deaf-friendly performance. So how do you guys make that work? Did you want to add anything additional?
I'll take it. Okay. So to make a performance deaf-friendly, of course, you need to have deaf performers who are the ones that are signing. That's integral. And you need to know how to frame a deaf performer, how far away to be or close. The camera is your best friend because eye contact is part of deaf culture. Absolutely. And so if you're looking around, you're not engaging. You want to make that eye contact with the camera so that the deaf participant feels like they're, you're looking at me, and that brings the magic. It's like, oh, they can see me. It's part of deaf culture. And of course, the signing. Some deaf individuals aren't completely fluent in ASL. So we do have the spoken language interpretation on top of that as well. If it's in person, then of course it's a little bit different, but this
more accessibility. With especially on a TV screen, it's kind of limited
by the technology, of course, but it works. It works on camera.
You have to be creative access, creative with integration, deaf friendly, all of that.
Exactly. And be visual, be big with your hands and your signs, and just make sure you're engaging the audience through that visual means. Yes,
beautiful. Eric, I feel like Gatry explained that very well. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I do, because I think what was fascinating for me was also reimagining the performance with the hearing kids. We use blindfolds as a tool to help people's to focus their conscious mind on their sensations, on their sensory experience. And I think blindfolds are really fun. I've probably blindfolded, this is, don't quote me on this, but probably like 10,000 people over the last 8 years. Lots of people. I know it sounds a little bit weird. I don't know if I want to have that as my claim to fame. I just blindfold everybody I come across, but what it does is that it allows people to really focus on their sensory experience, and it becomes a bit more of an internal experience, which is very individual, which means that there's no right or wrong in what you're feeling. And I think that's really special, because what it allows us to do is to meet the individual where they're at and to be present with them, which is so important. Like when I'm teaching acting, people ask me all the time, like, Eric, what do you believe acting is? And I say, acting is the art of being present. And the other part that's really, really important to me is that when we're performing, it's really about not just me as the performer or as the creator, but about the audience. And it's the thing that happens between us that is the magic. It's collaboration. You know, it's a collaborative art form, right? Where you have to participate in order to actually receive the experience. And so one of the things that we had to change was, because we didn't use the blindfold, we created a different box. And that box, actually, you have a flap that lifts up and you can stick your hands through, so you can't use your eyes to always identify what's in the box, because part of the fun is not knowing. Yeah, exactly. So that was
smart.
Really fun.
That's smart.
Yeah, so in some ways the box becomes the ASL blindfold, which is really fun, because it still allows the experience of not knowing and allowing your senses to search and find and figure out what is there, and to be playful with your not knowing.
Be
Exactly.
imaginative.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm just trying to think about when I was a kid, you know, I was by myself a lot. So I was really imaginative. That definitely makes sense. Absolutely. Gaytree.
Yeah, and just to add what you had said, Eric, when we were in the workshop, you had asked me how we would interact with deaf kids. And a blindfold wouldn't work. And then you showed me the flap on the box, and I was like, oh, this is a good idea. And I experimented myself with the box, and I had to, you know, kind of imagine, if I was a kid doing this, what would my feelings about this be? And I tried to put myself in that mindset. And I learned a lot. You taught me something here, because I didn't even think of something like that. So it's something I learned. I had never seen that before. So I was in the workshop, and we were workshopping this, and I was learning new things, and I just didn't.
You know, we learn something new every day until you die.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I don't have a degree in that yet, so you got to learn. You got to learn.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally right.
Okay, beautiful. That was a wonderful explanation. Very clear. I hope our audience is engaged. Let's see. Okay. Now, okay, as far as, you know, when you've got your hand in the box, you know, this new technology, maybe we've got VR or something in that. So that would be a deep dive into that type of worlds. So, yeah. Okay. Oh, Eric, yes.
Interesting. I met a person when I was starting my sensory work, and that invited me to have a meeting in Toronto, and it was a festival of virtual reality performances. And what was fascinating about the way that we were talking about is that actually virtual reality doesn't necessarily have to be linked to technology. In many ways, virtual is meaning like outside of yourself, right? And so in some ways, what's interesting about sensory work, it's about how we cue or prompt the individual to have an imaginative or a memory reaction or response. So just as an example, one of the shows that we created was called the Scent Bar Show. One of the performances inside of it was called Recipe to Remember. And the idea was, if you had, say, 5 smells that could define another human being, right? Who they are. What 5 smells would that be? And part of what's interesting about that is that our smell is actually our greatest connection, our most powerful connection to our memory. Like when my father passed away about 4 years ago, and one of the first things I did when I went back to my family home was I smelled his jacket, right? Like the way that someone smells, we kind of take that for granted, but there's
Definitely
very
evokes memories.
distinct things, right? Like that can define a person in ways that we don't always even understand, right? And by slowing things down and asking people to pay attention very consciously, it allows other um, um, uh, perceptions to open up, because your point of view is suddenly expanded, right? And I think that that's really special. That's part of I think my goal with this work is to offer people the understanding that you have all of this already inside of you. It's already there, right?
You
We
have
just
that
need to help
connection.
prompt it, you know. So it's oh, I don't know if I'm frozen. Oh, am I frozen? Am I okay?
Oh, Gatry. Sorry,
No,
Gatry.
you're good. You're good. I
Oh,
just
I'm good.
wanted
Okay.
to add that during the workshop, you know, I thought that senses were just the 5 senses that were common, but the more I learned about senses is that taste has, you know, different meanings behind them. Touch has a different meaning behind it. And it just really hit me that it's not just limited to senses, but that it can draw you into other things. And that was really engaging to me because I had lost my uncle 3 years ago. And you know, smell linking back to the memory. And I have a sweater of my uncle's. And if I smell his smell, it reminds me of him. Or if I eat a food that has a good smell, it takes me back to my mom cooking in the kitchen and making goat, which is one of my favorite meals. And it's my grandmother's recipe. So there's so much more than just the smell or the taste in the food. It really
Yeah,
takes me back.
absolutely. You know, being able to have that connection, especially
Right.
with COVID, you know, we've been in this for almost, 2 years now. We've kind of lost a little bit of that connection. And a lot of people are getting down and depressed, and there's, people that have heart issues and things that come up, as far as, making sure to have that connection, that you can save it, and because we don't want to forget that, and just kind of drop it all. Now that we've become virtual and everything, we want to help each other, and that's very vital.
Yeah, totally. And that sensory box, because we're in, the COVID world today with the masks all the time,
Yeah,
we're covering 2 portions of our face, that smell and the mouth where we taste. So
that was a wonderful explanation. All right, so I want to get through some of my other questions to make sure we have time. So we just want to make sure that we want to make sure that we get through all your questions and comments. So we want to get through those. All right. So now moving on. So what would you say have been your biggest challenges?
For me, I would say some of the biggest challenges have been, because I am hearing, I acknowledge that I can't understand the deaf experience, and that so for me, I felt very fortunate, in fact, to have Gatry and Sage helped us to understand that experience in the fullest way, and to have their expertise. But at times, even like this, like it's really inspiring me. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of deaf performers this year, and it's really inspired me to want to learn more sign, because I wish I had more fluidity in my communication. Like I wish that, like, if I could go back, I think I probably would have taken a bit more sign to prepare myself better, so that my communication could have been clearer and better with Gatry and Sage. And so I think the challenge for me was really about,
I think you will.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're integrated into that deaf world, then if you work with someone often enough, you pick up things and you don't even notice it. Or I mean, you can also go to I don't know what your comfort level is, but there are a lot of deaf events that you can interact with a lot of people, and sometimes you just pick things up. It's a wonderful experience, right, Gatry?
Totally. Yes, absolutely. And the biggest challenge for me is of course the translation into ASL, because I wanted to make sure that your intent and idea, the message and vision, was included in our ASL translation. And so I had to figure out, in ASL, we tend to edit out a lot of the English isms in order to make it make sense in ASL. But I wanted to ensure that I was able to capture exactly what you wanted in my ASL and make sure that it was accessible around the world. And so I'm so thankful to Eric for your vision and for helping us. I'm thankful to the interpreter that was there who did the spoken language on top. I have a lot of sympathy for that individual because it's a lot of signing to voice over. And Eric too, with your visual cues to ensure that I was understanding.
I mean, that means he's a good director,
No, you really took the time to explain what something was supposed to be, and then I could go back and we could have a discussion. It's like creating a puzzle, right? And there's a piece that doesn't quite fit. And so you have to, turn it around and move it to ensure that it fits in the place it's supposed to go.
Yeah, because your goal is to, have the problem be solved. Exactly.
And there's a lot of metaphor as well. And yeah, there's a way that we have to sign it that is different, and it loses a little bit in English. So to make sure that we capture that, and yeah.
So, all right, how do people join in the performance?
Well, they need to go through YPT's, like Young People Theater's website. So this link that is below will lead you to be able to buy a ticket. Yeah, just below. That's the one. And that ticket also includes the box, and then they'll send you a link. So right now you need internet access to do the performance. However, I believe that if you don't have a steady internet access, that I believe that YPT could find a way to send it to you in a different format to make sure that you still have it and is accessible for you.
Yeah. So I have another question. So when you order the box online, you order the box online and everything?
Yeah, that's right. You order it all online. So it comes with a ticket. So part of the cost of the ticket is the box itself and the cost of shipping it to you as well. So it's kind of like all in one, which is really nice and easy. But I was just thinking about, Gatry, what you were saying about the translation. And I remember just right at the end of the process, we had already filmed it once. And I remember Sage going, "Oh, your sign for letter." Remember, we had that whole debate around the letter as in alphabet versus letter as in male. Do you remember that? That nuance was so interesting to me.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, totally. Of course, it's challenging because I was trying to conceptualize. Yeah. Okay, so when you do letter like this, there's no connection to this is better because it looks like the stamp, right?
Yeah,
as opposed
stamp,
to
and then you send it out.
the initialization L.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, there's definitely a different way to sign it.
So, if I were to order a ticket or box and everything at the same time, so how much is that online, for the performance? The next one is January, or no, wait. So the performance, the whole experience, the whole thing, once that starts, that sensory box. So when does that quote unquote die online, or, if I order it?
Yeah, I think my my understanding is that they're actually thinking about extending it maybe all the way into January, because different people have been accessing it at different times. It also took us a bit longer to make the cuts and edits and to make sure that it's of a very high quality. And so I think that YPT is thinking about extending it to make sure, and really, to be honest, why not? Because it's not a performance that is specific to a time period or anything like that. And so in many ways, maybe they'll keep it even longer, because then people anywhere in the world can access it, which would be amazing. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So we have the website down below. So we hope that you order your ticket in box all together at the same time, rather than separate. And that's it. So I know that there is a time limit. Sorry, Eric.
I was just going to mention too that the performance is designed for ages 6 to 12, and so that's the kind of age range that this performance is looking at. Ghost River does have a kind of family adult. Yeah. A family adult version as well that we do if people contact us as groups want to have it as a performance. We just had a class at Queen's University in Kingston do it. We've had many different schools, lots of different organizations as team building events do it. So it's really interesting because there's many different applications. For adults, in some ways, it's about the idea of having adults remember how to play. And with the kids, the major theme of the kids show, exactly, right? Sometimes I've said to adults, when was the last time that you played with Play-Doh? And lots of people are like, wait, you're right. Why don't I ever do it? I don't interact with that anymore, right? And it's kind of funny because we think that those things are childish. But really, we should always be thinking like a child. In many ways, right? We need to be playful, we need to be humorous, and we need to be forgiving in the way in which we move through the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100,000%. Okay, last question. And then sorry, Gatry.
Yes, I remember at the workshop, I felt like a kid again because I had this Play-Doh in my hand and I was just playing with it. I was just squishing it. And then I remembered loving that feeling, and I felt like a kid again. And having the sensory experience really brought that out in me again. So it really helped a lot to remind me of what it's like to be a child.
Yeah, and of course that's that's healthy. That's healthy to process and kind of let things go. The sadness and isolation with COVID, it really is uplifting, and feeling like a kid again. Okay, our last question for you guys. So what is your goal, or what is your hope that people take away from this experience?
Gatry, do you want to start?
Yeah, take away from this experience.
Can you ask me the question again?
Sorry. I think I messed up when I found it. So what do you hope people take away from this experience of the box?
I hope it brings back memories for people and cherished memories. And during the pandemic, we sometimes forget what life used to look like because we've been isolated. We don't socialize as much anymore. And so that sensory box experience will take you back to a time where you remember that you had a life and that COVID didn't control everything. And this box can really open your eyes. It's a nice keepsake too, that you can remember, and you can open it up again and just experience it again and feel those memories again. And Eric, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I mean, in some ways, my goal is that idea of presence, of how do we, because I think a lot of anxiety comes from projecting yourself into the future. And when things are really uncertain, it can cause a lot of anxiety because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, right? And it feels like really at times can be overwhelming to not know. So practicing being present in the moment and being grounded in your senses, in the way that you smell, the way you can touch things, interact with things, I think helps people get away from that kind of spiraling into the future and remembering what it's like to be right here, right now, with this moment. Yeah,
live in the
grounding.
moment. Don't think about the future. Don't think about the past. Just live in the now and keep on keeping on. That is important.
And there's something, and the big thematic arc inside of the piece is really we examine all different ways that we change and that we think about change, which to me is a great leveler in the sense of COVID in this time. But even outside of COVID, one of the biggest things that we can teach our children is how to be resilient in the face of great change, right? How do we understand change? Not as something that is
patience.
That's right. Not as necessarily change as a negative idea, but something that is continuous. Like you said, as we learn, we change, we grow, we evolve,
we're always changing.
We're always changing. And to start to recognize that. So even COVID in one way is just another series of changes. They're happening differently, more rapidly, but there's still change. And that's something that actually you've dealt with as a kid all your life, right? So in some ways, it's, again, reminding people how much resiliency and strength that you have inside of yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful. Wonderfully said.
Yeah, totally.
All right. I hope the audience has appreciated our discussion. I know I have. Well, we wish you guys so much success on the Sensory Box experience. Thank you guys so much. Yay. Again, audience, if you want to get a ticket and you're interested in purchasing, the link is down below on our screen. Thank you all so much for joining us today. All right, we wish you a lot of success. And I'm sorry that our time's running slow. Okay, so we want to remind you today the American Heart Association, that we are partnering with them to offer Sign1News viewers a quick heart healthy tip every week. So here's a heart topic that you want to know more about. Just let us know and we'll see if we can get into the show. So this week's heart health tip is reconnecting with loved ones. A study conducted by the American Heart Association found that social isolation and loneliness may contribute to the development of cardiovascular disease. And during the holiday season, reestablishing healthy relationships is good for your hearts. So here are some tips on reestablishing healthy relationships. Go easy on yourself and others. Social skills may be a little bit rusty due to social distancing, so gauge people's comfort level before reconnecting. Number 2, reconnect safely. Make sure you're always wearing a mask indoors and avoid gatherings if you have symptoms. Number 3, start small. An informal gathering with a small number of people may be more suitable and safer. Number 4, make time. Set a time once a week to check in on someone you haven't talked to in a while. Number 5, help others. Studies show helping others through volunteer work has a direct correlation to better mental health and physical health and life satisfaction. So go ahead and lend a helping hand to someone in need this holiday season. And that's your American Heart Association Heart Health Tip of the Week. Thank you to all of our amazing guests today, to our viewers, and of course to our loyal app subscribers to help make this broadcast happen. As always, we like to end each show with words of inspiration, words that will hopefully help you dream a little bigger, aim a little higher, and find the courage to be a little bolder. Today's quote ties right into our heart healthy tip. And it comes from author and alternative medicine proponent, Rachel Naomi Remen. And it says, the most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give to each other is our attention. A loving silence often has far more power to heal and to connect than the most well-intentioned words. Thanks again, everyone. Be sure to join us next Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for another great live virtual chat. Have a great night, everyone. Good night.